Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today this is part 2 of my creepy Halloween show that I'm going to do for you guys. And looky what I found! Tom Macdonald has done a scary stories video. Absolutely made up to find this because I think obviously with his rapping stuff, his ability to tell stories with music is very, very cool, and I'm interested to see what this scary story, well, what these scary stories are all about with Tom Macdonald. I found it just by typing in ghost stories because I'm trying to do a Halloween video sort of thing, so I made up because it's music as well, because obviously it's Tom Macdonald. Is he going to rap this? This would be cool, but it's 25 minutes long, so I don't think it is going to be a rap. But, you know, there could be elements in there, I'm not sure. I didn't even know he'd done his Ghost Stories video, so. Anyway, before we jump into this reaction, if you do actually like my videos, then please consider it and like and subscribe. It supports me, it supports the channel, and I appreciate it very, very much. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you never miss an upload, and the link to this video will be down in the description should anybody want to check it out themselves. Okay, let's see what Tom's got to say. Hangover Gang, Gucci, forever. That's what he's got on his t-shirt anyway. I know he's referenced Gucci a few times in his in some of his videos, you know what I mean? So I don't know why I said that. Let's get into this.
Welcome to Ghost Stories with yours truly, Tom Macdonald. We're gonna have to
Glad
take
to be
a trip
here.
in the Wayback Machine for this one, because this happened a long time ago. The year is 2012. Thankfully,
Wow.
the Mayan calendar was wrong, and the much publicized end of the world didn't come. But it still got weird. It still got really weird.
Okay.
This all started with a music video shoot in the small Canadian town, abandoned Canadian town of Tranquil. But it wasn't until after this whole ordeal, it wasn't until after everything that I'm about to tell you, it wasn't until after all of that that we found out that Tranquil is actually one of the most haunted places in North America.
Ooh, this is going to be good.
One of the most haunted places in North
I
America.
hope so, anyway.
Let's start from the beginning. So there was 3 of us. There was myself, the music video director, and my producer at the time, Olivier. We all piled into a vehicle on a Friday afternoon and started the long drive to a long-forgotten corner of the Canadian Pacific Northwest.
This is starting off like a horror movie does, you know. He's got the nice music in the background, his little graphics coming up, the car driving past, and then obviously, bam, something's going to happen.
We were unknowingly embarking on what would turn out to be one of the most terrifying experiences of all of our lives.
Okay.
Aside from a traffic jam on the highway, it was a rather long and uneventful drive. As we drew closer and closer to Tranquil, things gradually became more and more desolate. The cars that we were sharing the highway with gradually disappeared. The streetlights gave way to pine trees, and the tiny communities that just dot the edges of the asphalt were just eventually swallowed up by the suffocating Canadian wilderness.
This guy should write books. I am totally visualizing the transition between coming from a town to a wooded area. He's really good at telling stories. I'm only a minute and 52 in.
Paved roads turned to gravel, and the gravel roads turned to dirt roads, and the vast forest around us just seemed to entirely close in. And when the paved roads turned to gravel roads, and the gravel roads turned to dirt roads, that's when we reached the Iron Gates. Our final destination, Tranquil, had been cut off from the rest of the world for quite some time. Essentially, Tranquil was home to Canadians who had tuberculosis, and at the time, tuberculosis was incurable and highly infectious.
Right.
Sound familiar? They pretty much...
Was that a stab at coronavirus? How old is this video? It's little jibe there, the coronavirus thing, I'm sure. This can't be that old then. But I mean, I love the way he's painting this picture. Creepy iron gates, etc. Wow.
And highly infectious. Sound familiar? They pretty much shipped everyone in Canada who had tuberculosis. They shipped all of those people to Tranquil, this tiny town in the middle of nowhere, and they shipped them there to, well, die, essentially.
Could be the reason why it's the most haunted place, because if ghosts really do exist, maybe they're all in Tranquil. Is that what he means? Is this what's so scary about this story? Let's continue.
Anyway, we didn't know any of that. All we knew was we had to shoot a music video, and this was the perfect place to do it, and we were going to get it done. So there we were in the middle of nowhere. We pulled the car over to the side of the dirt road. We unpacked everything we needed, lights and cameras and bags and outfits and all that stuff. And we cut into the trees to get around the iron gate that was blocking the road, and we were on our way.
So they couldn't drive
after
there.
A short hike through the trees, we came up over the top of a hill, and there it was. Just silent and still and forgotten. There was schools and houses and convenience stores and hospitals and libraries and paint chips just peeling off the outside of the exteriors of these buildings, just flapping in the wind. Just seemed like they were just clinging to a time a little less lonely.
So he's just walked into Silent Hill. It sounds like he's describing Silent Hill. If anyone's seen the film or played the games, these derelict towns with these rundown buildings and stuff. This is gripping. I love the way he's pulling me in with his narration. This is really, really good.
Flapping in the wind. Just seemed like they were just clinging to a time a little less lonely. We had arrived at Tranquil. So we made our way down the hill, and we crossed the train tracks that encircled the town, and there was no signs of life. And when I say no signs of life, I mean nothing. No birds, no coyotes, no bugs, nothing. Nothing like what you would expect of a town encapsulated in a massive forest in the middle of nowhere. So we made our way towards the 3 dilapidated houses. They were just on the outskirts of town, and they were identical. And they sat all in a row. Same paint, same windows, same doors, same front steps.
Okay.
Each house as perfectly the same as the next. Anyway, as we got closer, you could practically hear these houses moaning from years of being neglected and years without maintenance. It almost felt and sounded like something was stirring around inside them, and to be completely honest, I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to find out what that something was. But it turns out that I didn't have a choice. While I was standing there just sort of lost in thought and just gripped by this almost tangible apprehension about the situation at hand, something emerged from the middle house.
Ooh, okay, now I'm curious. I'm loving the way Tom tells this story. This is my favourite ghost story thing that I've watched so far, where someone's been telling you, because I can totally visualise what he's saying. I can totally put myself in his shoes with the way he's saying it. This is great. Let's see what's coming out of this middle house.
About the situation at hand, something emerged from the middle house. 2 teenage kids, and we stopped dead in our tracks. So it was this boy and this girl, and they sort of like bounced toward us across this like sun-bleached pavement, and their demeanor was weird. So they got close enough to us, and I said to the boy, I said, "What are you guys doing here?" And like I said, their demeanor was strange. Well, maybe strange isn't the right word. Their demeanor just did not fit the situation.
Sorry about that. Duty called. Let's get back to the story.
Right word. Their demeanor just did not fit the situation. They were just like smiling and happy, and they seemed like they were excited to see us. And to me,
okay,
that didn't fit the vibe. So the boy spoke first, and he said, "We're just hanging out, just checking out the abandoned town, and we're filming it with this camcorder." And I was like, "Cool, well, did you see anything weird?" And he said, "Nope, not yet." And then the girl just like interjected, and she was like, "Oh, be careful in the houses. Like a lot of the floors are rotting, and if you go upstairs, you could fall through, and it's really friggin' dangerous." I don't really remember much else about that conversation. It was maybe like 3 minutes long, and they darted off in the other direction, and we just continued on our way. So we went into the house that our new friends just emerged from, and the girl wasn't lying. There was a massive hole in the ceiling of the living room where it looked like something on the top floor had fallen through and landed in a giant heap of rubble just sitting on the floor in the living room. It was trippy. So the more we explored, the weirder it got. Like inside the school, there was 3 inches of dust on the desks, and the day's lessons were still scribbled on the chalkboard, and there was pencils and erasers just littered about all the workstations. And if you picked anything up, you'd leave a perfect impression of whatever you picked up on the surface that you picked it up off of. Like, this stuff literally hadn't been touched in years.
Sacrilege! Did you touch stuff that's not been moved for years? That could have some sort of knock-on effect with these spirits. If that's what's going to happen. Let's continue.
Like, this stuff literally hadn't been touched in years. After roaming through like half a dozen buildings, we had finally made our decision where we were going to start shooting this music video, and we decided on, of course, the sanatorium.
Ooh.
So we were walking down the...
Now that looks like Silent Hill.
Of course.
That there looks like the background scenario to the game Silent Hill, not the film, the game. If anyone's played that, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Sanatorium. So we were walking down the main street on our way back to the hospital when I noticed something peculiar. Peculiar? When I noticed something up.
I know exactly where Tommy's coming from there, because if I can't get a word out, I start trying to say it like that as well. It pisses me right off when I can't get a word out like that.
Peculiar? When I noticed something up. There was this small white brick building that was just sort of jetting out of the dirt right on the edge of town. And we had a long day of shooting ahead of us, but Tranquil just felt like it was some sort of portal to like an alternate dimension, and we were just so captured by the mystery of this town that like work came second, and we just wanted to explore. So we took off towards that white building. So this building was essentially just like a brick box. It was maybe like 10 feet tall by 20 feet long and 20 feet wide, and it had one of those big metal doors on it. It was like like something that you'd see on a government building. It was that light green color, kind of like sun bleached by the sun. It was missing its doorknobs. I walked over, no windows on this thing, can't see inside. So I walk over to this big green door, and I put my hand inside where the doorknob's supposed to be, and I jerked the door open. So it was dark, and it was not the type of dark that you're familiar with. This wasn't like 1 a.m. in my house dark. This was like pitch blackness.
Is that not a trigger to not go in? Pitch fucking black, man. Did you bring torches?
a.m. in my house dark. This was like pitch blackness. But we're here to shoot a music video, right? So we got lights. So I grab one of the lights and I turn that motherfucker on. So when I turn the light on, there's nothing in this room. There's no windows, there's no doors, there's nothing on the walls, there's not even flooring. It's just plain concrete. It's as plain and white on the inside as it was on the outside, with the exception of one thing. A staircase.
Ooh.
Going down. I'd be lying if I said we weren't scared, because we were freaked the f*** out, man. But here's the thing about 3 dudes hanging out, is none of these dudes is going to admit to any of the other dudes that they're scared, because that's not what dudes do. So we're all terrified, but nobody's going to admit that they're terrified to anybody else.
No.
So in the greatest display of masterfully fabricated machismo in the history of mankind, we go down the stairs.
Ooh, the male ego where you will. I'm not scared, secretly shitting yourself. I mean, you wouldn't go down there by yourself, let's put it that way, but I mean, when you've got 3 people with, like, together, I suppose, like, well, we've all got each other sort of thing. Anyone else getting the vibe of, if anyone has ever seen the Blair Witch Project, there's a scene right at the end of it where they go down some steps, and that's where I'm visualising now when he's saying there was some stairs and we went down it.
Josh, is that you down there?
just like that. You know, it's oh my God, I would be like, no, I'm not going down.
We go down the stairs. We are so deep in denial and so unwilling to admit that we're afraid in front of another man that we forced ourselves to go down.
I think something's crashed. Don't know what happened there. Technical issue. Let's continue.
Man, that we forced ourselves to go down a set of stairs into a black hole inside an abandoned town in the middle of f***ing nowhere. And you know what? I could barely comprehend what was at the bottom of those stairs. Medical equipment everywhere. X-ray machines and surgery tables and scalpels and wheelchairs and rolling beds, just everywhere, all covered in dust, untouched for years. So there's 3 walls down here, and there's a doorway on each wall. No door, just a doorway. So I shine the light through the first doorway, long concrete hall. I shine the light through the second doorway, long concrete hall. And then
I'm loving the fact that he's actually showing, these look like actual stills from probably where he is. And these places do look creepy as hell, like proper torture chamber type corridors, especially when it's being used with like the lighting, with the obviously the light going down the stretches, and makes it seem even more creepy.
And I shine the light through the third doorway. You guessed it. Long concrete hall. Still neglecting the sheer terror that's permeating every cell in our bodies, we somehow choose a doorway, walk through it, and start our journey into the abyss. And what we found were just more concrete hallways and more wheelchairs and more rolling beds and more hallways and more doorways and more concrete halls. This was a labyrinth of underground concrete halls.
I'm going to make a prediction here now. Is the scary part of this story the fact that they're going to get lost because they're going in through doors, in here, in there, and then they don't know where they're going? Maybe that's going to be the scary part of this story. That's my prediction so far.
This was a labyrinth of underground concrete halls. And we decided it was a cool place to shoot a scene for a music video, so
why not?
We started shooting a music video. I'm not even exaggerating. We probably had that camera turned on for 30 seconds before we had to turn it off because started getting weird.
Ooh.
I just remember saying, cut the camera. Did you guys hear that? And we all just stood there, just quiet and motionless in the 10-foot section of hallway that our lights would illuminate. And I am not kidding you. Somewhere out there, beyond where our lights could reach, footsteps. I remember my producer Olivier just sort of laughing like, no f***ing way. No f***ing way.
It's getting tingly now.
We just stood there, frozen with fear. We just stood there and we just listened. And we heard voices. Voices somewhere way out there in that maze of concrete hallways, just echoing through everywhere. And I just said, yo, pack up the camera. Let's get the f*** out of here.
Fucking
now.
right.
As we're packing up to leave, I noticed that just out of our light's reach, I see a door. And it's a big-ass metal one. So I squeeze past Olivier, and I walk over to the door. It's this giant steel door, and it's just flush with the concrete inside this hallway. And I just push it open. It's the basement of a house.
He's a braver man than I am, because if I'd have heard voices and I'd have heard footsteps, I'd have been running away. It's like, come on, get your shit and let's go.
It's the basement of a house. I just said, yo, shine that light over here. And there's another big metal door 6 feet away. And I walk up to it and I push it open. Basement of a house. And then another door and I push that open. And it's a basement of a house. And as we walk out of this labyrinth of concrete hallways, more doors, more basements of more houses. So it was at this point that I realized that this wasn't a regular town. There was something going on here. Something that required every house in town to be accessible by these underground tunnels that all led to a massive underground medical lab.
I bet it is something to do. I mean, I don't know because I've not got to the end of the video yet. But I reckon, obviously, with all of the houses and stuff, and all the basement, and all the medical stuff, and they're all linked together. I reckon that is probably something to do with that outbreak of tuberculosis that they couldn't cure. Maybe if somebody got sick in the house, they went into the basement, straight to the medical facility without going outside and infecting other people. Maybe that is the only thing I can come up with there. But I tell you what, hearing voices in a derelict town. In a dark place, you know, I would have got the fuck out of there. I wouldn't have carried on. I mean, I like horror films and stuff. Don't want to be part of one. Anyway, let's go.
Needless to say, we needed to shoot this music video and get the hell out of there. By the time we found our way out of these underground tunnels and we reached the surface of Tranquil once again, it had gotten dark. And you know what's creepier than an abandoned town in the middle of nowhere with an underground mad scientist lab? A creepy-ass abandoned town in the middle of nowhere with an underground mad scientist lab in the dark, son. That being said, the next couple hours went by rather smoothly, and we got some cool shots and some cool places. We pretty much got everything we needed and had wrapped up the music video. But this is where the really haunted starts.
Before he carries on, what music video is he talking about? Does anybody know? Because I'd be really interested to see what this music video is now. I don't recall it in any of the songs that I've checked out from him so far. I'm really engaged with Tom here with this video. It's drawn me right in. I want to know what happens now.
We finish the shoot, pack up the gear, hike up the hill, sneak through the trees, go around the iron gate, and get back to the car. We've escaped Tranquil. Or so we thought. We load everything into the trunk of the car, and the director says, "Oh, I'm missing one of my lights. I'm missing a light." And I'm like, "So what, dude? That light. Let's get the out of here." And the director goes, "Oh, well, it was a $1,200 light."
Fucking go back yourself for it then. If you've left it, it's yours. Go back. There ain't no way I'd be going back. I'll tell you that now.
The director goes, "Oh, well, it was a $1,200 light." And I said, "I don't give a I'm not going back into the creepy abandoned town in the middle of nowhere with the underground mad scientist lab. I'm not going back." And Olivier says, I'm with Tom. I'm not going back either." And the director says, "Somebody has to go back because I need that light, so let's all play rock, paper, scissors for it." And the loser goes back into the town to get the light. Look, I never liked fucking rock, paper, scissors. I hate that. When there's something that somebody has to do and it's an undesirable task, everybody's always like, "Let's play rock, paper, scissors." I fucking hate rock, paper, scissors. It's an impossible fucking game to win. I always fucking lose. We agree we'll play rock, paper, scissors. Guess fucking what?
Tom
lost.
lost.
Of course, I fucking lose. But I'm not going back.
No.
I'm not going back. I'm acting like a child, and Olivier has always been the more mature of our sort of duo. So he stands up, and he's just sick of listening to us complain, and he goes, "You know what? I will go back. I'll go back and get the light."
Yeah, fucking damn right. You go back and get it. Because I'd be exactly the same as Tom. I ain't going back on there, especially not on my own. I probably wouldn't go back with all the 3 people. Not a chance. Not a fucking chance. It's a light. Go back the next day.
And complain, and he goes, "You know what? I will go back. I'll go back and get the light. Where is it?" And the director says, "It's in the sanatorium." Of course it's in the sanatorium. Where else would it be? Where else would the lost light be than the most haunted possible place in this abandoned town? It wouldn't make any sense for it to be anywhere else. Olivier goes, "Okay, cool, I'll go get the light." And with that, Olivier just turns and walks into the darkness. I turn to the director and I'm just like, "Dude, give me a flashlight." You gotta understand, Olivier isn't just my producer at this point. He's my best friend. And I cannot, in good conscience, let my best friend wander back into an abandoned town to get somebody else's light by himself. I just can't do it.
True.
So I run to catch up with him. So I reach him and I'm like, "I got us a flashlight." And Olivier turns and looks at me and he doesn't say anything. He just smiles, like a full teeth grin, like one of those smiles that somebody makes when they're terrified or when they're fully aware that they're making a very poor decision and they're about to do something really stupid.
Fuck that light. I mean, I'd be happy that Tom would have caught up with me and wanted to come with me, because you've always got that comfort that you've got somebody with you, sort of thing. But I mean, I don't know why that is, because if you walk into a derelict place and you're on your own, it feels creepier than it does when you're with someone else. When really, potentially, if something bad was going to happen, it's going to happen to two of you and not one of you. So it doesn't matter really in the grand scheme of things if there's two of you or one of you. I think it's just the nerves side of things, like the human emotion and the nerves of being what could happen. I'm on my own, sort of thing. Yeah, but I mean, if this is all true, then, you know, good on Tom. But I don't reckon he'd have gone there by himself, because obviously he said at the beginning of this part of the story that there's no way he's going to go, even though he lost at rock, paper, scissors sort of thing. But, you know, we can't let his mate go, so, you know, at least there's two of them going now.
Poor decision, and they're about to do something really stupid. Through the forest, around the fence, up the hill, down into the valley, we are back in Tranquil. It's pitch black now, and I'm carrying this little rinky-dinky ass flashlight, and we're just navigating through the town, and we're on the way back to the sanatorium. I ask Olivier, where do you have any idea where we put this light? Olivier says, yeah, it's in the big main room. I saw him put it down there. I just don't like him, so I was just gonna let him leave it there and hope that nobody noticed, and we just drive home and we'd have a good chuckle about this later on. Yeah. So somehow I managed to let out a muffled laugh because it's funny, but at the same time, it's the reason why I'm standing in an abandoned town in the middle of nowhere with a creepy ass mad scientist underground lab at like 2 a.m. We go up the old wooden stairs and push this giant creaky ass door open and step inside the sanatorium, and we're at the end of this long hallway. And at the end of that long hallway, there's a giant, big, massive open room, and that's where the light is. So we start walking down this hallway, and there's doorways lining this hallway, and they're all the padded rooms that crazy people would hang out in. We get into the big main room, and as we enter this big main room, I shine the flashlight up on the wall, and just like this perfect, massive piece of art up on the wall, it is painted, "Please burn me down."
What?
Olivier.
Fucking indeed. Because that's the stuff that you see in horror type movies where they say, like, if this house is haunted, get out, blah, 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 burn the house to the ground because maybe it's haunted and that'll get rid of it. Oh, man, this is getting good.
Piece of art up on the wall, it is painted, "Please burn me down." Olivier says, "Oh, there's the light." Walks over, picks the light up, and now that we have this all-important light in our possession, we turn and start walking back down that hallway towards the main door. Now, what happens next is probably the most horrendous thing that I've ever witnessed in my life.
This feels like, you know, when you watch one of those unsolved mysteries type programs or ghost stories type programs, and they say what happens next is Tom could so be a presenter of one of them shows. The way he's telling this story is really engaging.
Probably the most horrendous thing that I've ever witnessed in my life, and I'm sure Olivier would say the same thing. In fact, I might actually call him and get his account for this video. But what happens next is the single most horrendous thing that I've ever witnessed in my life.
Tell me, Tom.
I said, the hallway is lined with doors on both sides, right? And they're like holding cells, or they're like padded rooms or something. You know the ones? Yeah, you know the ones. Now, I'm not exactly sure how to explain this. You know that feeling you get when somebody is watching you? Or you know when you see something out of the corner of your eye and you quickly turn your head and there's nothing there?
Yeah.
Or you feel the hair raise up on the back of your neck like someone's standing behind you, but by the time you spin around to face it, it's gone? Okay, that happened to both of us at the exact same time.
Ooh.
Except something was watching us. And that thing in the corner of your eye that you don't expect to see when you look, we saw it. And that thing that you feel behind you when the hair raises up on your neck and you spin around, and when you spin around it's gone, it was there when we spun around. In perfect synchronization, all this shit happened. We turn and shine the flashlight into the padded room next to us, and there it is. A shadow standing up from the floor. Not a shadow cast on the floor, a shadow standing up off the floor. It looked just like a person, except it wasn't a person. It was featureless and almost transparent and massive and daunting and rigidly standing there with its arms by its sides. You can't see from where you're at right now, but I have goosebumps all over me. And at the same time, we just started to run. And we were so scared, and it was so dark. We were just like two frantic animals running from a predator. It was like some sort of primal survival instinct had taken over, and we were just absolutely frantic, and we were falling over each other and tripping over rubble and tripping over pieces of fallen wall and ladders and all of this stuff that we can't see in the dark. And somehow we made it to the front door. We kicked that mother open and ran out into the middle of the street. And
damn straight you did. If you thought you'd seen an entity or you saw some sort of big shadow like that, you would definitely go for that run. You don't give a shit what is in front of you. You get past it. You find a way of getting past it.
And all of this stuff that we can't see in the dark. And somehow we made it to the front door. We kicked that mother open and ran out into the middle of the street. And we didn't stop running. We weren't even thinking. We were just moving as fast as we could, as far away from whatever the hell that thing was, as far away as we could get. As fast as we could get there, we were going. And after running for what seemed like a marathon, we just finally stopped, and we almost collapsed on the ground, and we're just spinning our heads like a swivel from side to side, just trying to orient ourselves and gain some sort of information about where we had ran to. And I'm gasping for breath and looking around, and I'd say to Olivier, where are we? And Olivier says, I don't know. And I picked a flashlight up and I flash it around and I'm looking. And that's when I have another terrifying realization, and I say out loud, dude, we're lost. And I mean,
I did say lost at the beginning of this thing, but I thought they might have got lost in the labyrinth, like I said. But maybe, obviously, from being so scared, they've ran out of this place and ran maybe the wrong way. And they don't know where the fuck they are.
And that's when I have another terrifying realization, and I say out loud, dude, we're lost. And I mean, we're so scared, and it's so dark, and this town is so big that we've completely lost ourselves in what's transpired here. Now, I remember Olivier gasping, I think the car's that way. You know, and he just kind of points out with one hand, just totally exhausted. So I turn the flashlight in the direction that he's pointing, and I shit you not, I take one step, and this flashlight flickers twice and dies. We're lost. It's dark. We have no flashlight, and there's that thing in the sanatorium. I honestly don't remember the next 30 minutes. And I don't remember the next 30 minutes because we were just running on pure adrenaline and racked with fear. But we found our way out. And this time when we crossed those train tracks and went up that hill, before going into that forest, we turned around and we looked down on Tranquil one last time. And guess what? The lights in the sanatorium were on. So we barreled through the trees and around the iron gate over to the car, and I remember Olivier opening up the car door, and he's leaning the front seat forward, and he's scrambling to try and get into the back seat of the car, and I had just had enough. I remember putting my foot on his ass and just shoving him into the back of the car, standing the seat up, jumped in, slammed the door, and I just said, drive. The director started, oh, what happened? And I said, shut the f*** up and drive. So we made it back home, mostly unscathed and in one piece. But you know what the craziest part of this whole thing was?
Before he tells what the craziest part of that whole thing was, that gave me a little bit of shiver. I don't know whether it was because of how Tom was telling it or the fact that he may have seen this these lights come on, but the way he portrayed that story over it was very, very engaging, like I keep saying through this video, and you know, you believe everything that he says. So you know, I'm putting myself in the picture of what he's just been through, and you know, I totally get you being scared, seeing something or thinking you've seen something that makes you freak out like that, does give you goosebumps, does make you run away, does make you shit your pants. Oh man, let's see what the end of this story's got. It feels like it's going to be some sort of twist.
You remember those kids I mentioned at the beginning of the story? Well, when I got home, I started Googling Tranquil. And I started researching that abandoned town.
Okay.
And that's when I found out that Tranquil was an abandoned town where people with tuberculosis would go and live out their final days. And that's when I found out it was the most haunted place in North America. And that's also when I found out that those underground tunnels were used to remove the dead bodies from their houses without having to wheel corpses through the streets of the town and scare the shit out of all the children and everybody else living there. But the scariest thing I found out, was that 10 years prior to our experience in Tranquil, 2 kids went out there ghost hunting. And they fell through the floor in one of the houses and died.
Oh!
A boy and a girl.
With a camcorder. Oh, that was a bit tingly at the end then. Oh, so the kids, the story when he's planted, I've got goosebumps. The story about him planting the seed of the 2 kids with the camcorder, looking for stuff, blah, blah. There was probably spirits. That's what he's trying to say. And obviously the hole in the floor was very, very apparent to this story because they fell through the floor and died. Wow. Oh, I've got shivers all over my body now because he said that. It's the way he tells it. The way he told this story was absolutely brilliant. I loved that story. That's my favourite one of this Halloween thing that I've done so far. Absolutely brilliant there from Tom Macdonald. The narration was on point. The way he told the story and the fact that he uses like still images of some of the things that he shot, you know, from the camera and whatever, from the actual place was really, really good. I love the fact that he researched the place when he got back and found all these facts out after seeing these kids and stuff and what have you. Oh, if he's made it up, he's done a good job of sucking me in. If he's not made it up, then, you know, if it's what he thought he saw, or, you know, if he did actually see that, because I'm very sceptical with ghosts. I don't know if they exist. I've never seen anything yet. Don't want to see anything before anybody starts coming. But one thing I will say, when you look back at the building and the lights were on, and they've got this spirit that roams the floors, etc. Saying, or the shadow, if you like. Do you know, I always think, mate, these places that have abandoned souls in them, whatever. Wonder if like they get bored, the spirits, when there's nobody there. You know, they've been there for years and years. They just roam the floors all the time until somebody comes. Again, shivers thinking about it. They just roam the floors all the time, and then when someone comes, they feel like they're going to scare him or whatever. I don't know. It maybe just, you know, can you imagine me stuck in the same place like that for fucking eternity? Anyway, what a great way of telling a story from Tom Macdonald. I absolutely loved it. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Anyway, if you like my videos, then please hit like and subscribe. If you want to support me on Patreon or any of the social medias, then the links are in the description. Thanks for watching. I shall see you on the next one.